Welcome everyone to Wrestling Raw!
You're listening to Wrestling Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Monday Night Raw was uncut, uncooked, and uncensored. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Hey, wait a minute, Bartlett. This isn't the Learning Channel.
Knew it. I fucking knew it. Joe Gimateo.
Ain't I great?
I'm Jason Bartlett. That's no relation to Raw Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. Before we do that, though, we here at Wrestling Raw would like to give a very, very special shout out to all of those Russian bots out there that have been downloading the podcast and giving us a false sense of hope. There's a cloud of suspicion hanging over our subscriber count now. And all it really has done is confirm that no living being wants to listen to us. So thank you very much, Russian bots, for that.
Unlike Tatanka, we are not letting everyone down across the world.
Yeah, Ryan, you said the that one particular bot in Oregon did come back online?
Yeah.
Good. I was wondering. I think between this podcast and all of the bot activity, it's a little bit late, but I think this is going to be the birth of Skynet.
That, or it might ruin the next election.
Well, we're going to leave that there and get started on this. So in this episode of Wrestling Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on October 17th, 1994. This Raw was recorded at the Burlington Memorial Auditorium in Burlington, Vermont, and features Vince McMahon and the Macho Man Randy Savage on commentary. Are you guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, then, let's get into it. Hey, this isn't the Learning Channel. Like what Ryan said at the beginning, we get this weird-ass segment of, like, I don't know, I'm assuming they were, like, little video clips of beautiful downtown Burlington, Vermont. Savage says, this ain't the Learning Channel. Vince says, this isn't Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and one of them says, it's not the Suez Canal. Whatever the fuck that means.
It's surely not.
Yeah. Main Street USA looks nothing like a canal, Suez or otherwise. What it is Monday Night Raw, and it's going to take us straight into our first match. Double J, Jeff Jarrett, defeats Doink the Clown with Dink by pinfall in 8 minutes and 53 seconds. So somebody must have gotten Dink wet because we've got another midget running around, and his name is Wink now. So the lame clown posse go to
Is it Wink or Winky?
It's Wink. They all rhyme.
No, I'm just...
Yeah, okay. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. So the lame clown posse go to the Spanish announce table and give one of the announcers a rose, and holy shit, it's a gag rose that apparently wilts if you don't hold it just right, and everybody thinks that this is fucking hilarious, except for me. Pretty damn lame. We get the Raw intro real quick, and tonight we have a voiceover from Todd Pettingzoo telling us about how tonight's brought to us by new, bigger Stridex medicated pads. It's simple pimple control.
Clean that big face.
Yeah. Get off your couch, pizza face.
And it sucks because I really enjoy the Raw music, and now it's been ruined by Pettingzoo's voiceover for pimple pads.
Well, after you eat your Domino's pizza, you got to clean that face up.
That's true.
It's just so fucking easy. I mean, they deliver, for God's sakes.
Synergy advertisement.
Yeah, I mean, they really knew who was watching these episodes of Raw. Anyway, though, the midget clowns are bouncing around on the ropes, and between that and the lights and the music, it really does feel like a circus. I mean, I'm not tuning in to watch a circus, but it does feel like one. Double J comes out, and this is the first time we've seen him in action in a while. He does the awesome strut across the ring, and there's some talk going on here about how it has been talked about before a little bit, but they're kind of laying it in heavy now. There's talk about how Double J has never been heard singing. And apparently there's an album in the works set to release. Double J does what I felt was a really forced promo. It was just kind of flat. I was kind of sad about it. Like, it's almost as if he was told that he had to come out here and remind all of us who he is, and he wasn't very happy about that. And that was my take on it, just me personally, you know.
Yeah, I had the exact same thing noted. It was really weird just how canned and rehearsed it sounded. I was really taken aback by it.
Yeah, I was surprised because usually he's like on it. Double J, Jeff Jarrett, is excellent with promos and everything, and this was just really shocking, surprising.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
But I have it noted here, and I did go and check, so I was wrong in this observation, but for a split second, I thought it was maybe a different person playing Doink. He looked different physically. Maybe it was the ring gear. He looks like he's shaped differently. Maybe it's the new haircut on the clown pullover mask thing. But I did honestly think that it was like a different person, but it's definitely still Ray Apollo.
Well, and you're not crazy for that because they do keep changing his look, it seems like. New ring gear, new haircut.
Yeah.
At this point, we get a close-up of Dink talking to the camera, and I couldn't understand anything he was saying. I'm not sure any of these midgets speak English. Seriously, anytime you hear them talking, it's I don't know, they've got like a weird accent going on or something. So in this match, the action starts, and Doink is certainly being more proficient in the ring here than we saw last week. Not great, but better than last week. So much so that Vince says Doink is a consummate professional. My favorite part of this match here, Double J puts Doink into an abdominal stretch and holds the rope for leverage. Let's go whenever the ref starts to come over and check it. But the best part about this is the ref comes over to check, and we can't hear it. We're not at the right camera angle to see his lips or anything, but the ref must say something about not holding on to the rope because Double J yells, No, that's not allowed. And then the ref goes back around and is like checking on Doink, and Double J starts to grab the rope again. I very much liked that. That put a big old smile on my face.
He was also yelling no several times when Dink was yelling. He's got the ropes. He's got the ropes. And Double J's like, no.
And I'm right there with you, Bartlett. I am an absolute sucker for these cheap heel moves, like the using the rope for leverage. I love it.
Well, not just that, like that was good by itself, but just him being so fucking loud and obnoxious. Like you can hear him over the crowd noise and everything. Just no, that's not allowed. But this abdominal stretch kind of starts to become kind of a long stall until Jarrett goes back to holding onto the rope, and Dink jumps up and bites his arm, causing him to release the rope and the stretch on Doink. So Queasy, if you remember from last week, we got to meet, was that last week or the week before? That was last week that we got to meet Queasy.
I believe it was last week. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, and English is not his native tongue.
And I'm only assuming that the little joke or the little surprise that Doink had for Lawler was Wink. I believe that was on Superstars.
Yeah. We aren't informed on here on Raw where exactly Wink came from. Now, speaking in a breaking kayfabe sense, I'm pretty sure I know where all of these midgets came from. I think they came from a drunken Mexican donkey show. And they still haven't sobered up, because that's just that's the first thing I think of is they must have poached all of these guys from a Mexican donkey show, because just look at them. So Jarrett uses this distraction of Queasy and an as of yet unnamed King Midget that shows up. They show up and start taunting Doink. Jarrett uses the distraction to knock Doink out of the ring, where the two King Midgets start going to work on Doink, laying in really weak kicks that Doink barely sells. And I can't blame him, honestly. I wouldn't sell for that shit either. Dink and Wink try to go over to put an end to the insanity, but they are stopped by Double J, and the vicious beating of Doink by these two probably intoxicated little people continues. Double J takes Doink back into the ring to bring this back to a higher level of entertainment, if that could be called that. We cut to a commercial, and when we come back, Double J is still in control of the match. Jarrett gets a great drop kick on Doink. It looked great, but the midgets are just horrible here. They're trying to take part in the storytelling and just ruining it, getting up on, like Joe was saying before, like whenever they were doing the abdominal stretch, trying to say, hey, he's holding on to the rope and that kind of thing. Anytime they get involved in it, it just kind of kills the vibe of the match. The crowd is really getting behind Doink here, but I think it's more because of how great of a heel Double J is being. Out of nowhere, Vince starts talking about country music singer Conway Twitty. And apparently, at an auction after his death, they auctioned off his belongings. And can you believe that Conway Twitty's widow had to pay $27,500 for his 1980 AMC Pacer? It's a fucking American tragedy, folks. Conway Twitty's widow, AMC Pacer. Vince calls this a grueling matchup, and it's only grueling for us viewers. It sure hasn't really been much in the ring. And in a staged spot, they definitely blow a midget off the apron and into the barrier. It was one of the best things I've seen so far here involving the midgets. They really put some ass behind it. The midget was standing up on the apron, and pretty sure Jarrett whips Doink into the ropes to hit the midget and just blasts that fucker into the barrier. It was pretty good. The clown midgets start chasing the king midgets around the outside of the ring. I had to note, I find it really hard to believe that the king midgets, which are literally about twice the size of the clown midgets, are intimidated by these two at all. In the ring, thankfully, Joe, there is no fart noise when Doink lands the whoopee cushion. And then, thank Friar Ferguson, Jerry the King Lawler shows up to interfere when the ref isn't looking. He takes out Doink, throws Double J onto him just in time for the ref to see it and get the 3 count. Double J does a great job of milking the victory. Jerry Lawler comes over to ringside after the bell has been rung to tell us that there won't be a King's Court this week, thank Friar Ferguson, and to introduce the so far unnamed new King Midget. This one is named Sleazy.
Did he say sleazy? He said it.
And he is it. Macho says that the king is who's sleazy, which prompts the king to reply with, nice outfit. Does the bag lady know you borrowed it? We get informed that the British Bulldog is going to be in action here, and I'm disappointed. No cornrows on the Bulldog in this little thing that we see here. And that's it for this match. Joe, please get us started.
Oh boy. I will try not to be too negative on this because we obviously hate this version of Doink. I am a huge Jeff Jarrett fan. I always like seeing him in action. I think this match was obviously an insult to him. I mean, this was just a strange way to start the show with the midget sideshow going on. I think there was just too much of that. I did enjoy when the King midgets started shoe shining Doink outside of the ring. I kind of enjoyed that, but it was too much with the chasing around and just too much.
Yeah.
Queasy, like you said, one of the things I noted was like Queasy and Sleazy are twice the size of these guys.
Yeah. Yes.
And Wink, like what? I mean, so this is where we've gotten a little bit better with the production of the TV show now, and even a few years after this, like we got no explanation about Wink. Like he just shows up. Like what if I only watch Raw in 1994? I don't watch Superstars. I'm like, what the fuck is this yellow-haired midget now?
Yeah.
No explanation at all about that. So that was kind of disappointing. The match itself, I mean, there's really nothing to point out. Spoiler alert, my low light for this show is no fart noise for the whoopee cushion. It's not really, but that was disappointing for me.
Excuse me.
Double J, I have a couple notes here. I don't have much else here, but Double J is he throws a great working punch. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but his working punches are so good. Definitely has the facial expressions down. Bartlett, you mentioned he's doing great heel work, and I think that's a big part of it. Like all of his facial expressions are just great. And that's pretty much all I have noted here.
For me, I'll just start with Bartlett. You mentioned Double J's strut when he comes in.
Yeah.
And I have it noted just because that is something I have always loved. I remember when I was young, even when I hated Jeff Jarrett because he was a heel, I still would do his strut just because it was just such a cocky, fuck you type of move. It's just so beautiful. So I just wanted to reiterate how great the Double J strut is. You were also correct. I noticed as well that Doink, although still looking quite shitty, was significantly better in this match than what we've seen him in the last. Just a little bit tighter, a little bit quicker, didn't look quite as jobberish this week, though not great. Especially the one point he puts in a headlock and it just looks like he's not putting on any pressure whatsoever. It looks like he's merely getting his breath is what this headlock looked like. So he still had a little bit of that. It was pretty shocking how much the crowd was behind Doink. I know you were contemplating it might have just been because of how good of a heel Jeff Jarrett was being, which he was, but it happened like 2 or 3 times throughout the match. So I have to say that the crowd was just in Doink's corner in this match. I don't know how else to put it. As far as other things, does Doink know any move other than a body slam? It seems to be.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of the whoopee cushion, it seems like every third move he hits is a body slam.
Well, I mean, come on, man. I think you're asking for too much to ask this guy to be able to coordinate a move with another human being.
He is just a fake Doink.
That's nothing that should be expected from him. Come on.
That's true. The point where Vince brought up Conway Twitty's estate auction and the widow paying $27,000 for the AMC Pacer. I loved Macho's comment after that saying he's got a 76 AMC Gremlin that he'd sell for $27.
Yeah. It doesn't have a steering wheel though.
Yeah, no steering wheel. To end this, I'll just talk about how much I hate all the midgets in this. And I don't mean that. I don't mean that in a way that I hate all midgets. They really ruined this match. All of their antics on the outside. When Queasy showed up, I myself was getting queasy because I realized now that there's yet another royal midget and now we have Wink. This feud is not ending anytime soon. So I got a little sick to my stomach.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one. But we've gotten through a good chunk of it, and I mean, I don't think it's going too far out on a limb to just kind of throw it out there that, you know, we've got 2 more midgets each to go here. So, or was it 1? No, they got to round out a team of 4.
Yeah, it's 1 more.
So
I want to go back too. I want to backtrack a little bit. Did you guys notice when Vince and Macho do their normal intro, how dark it was? Like you couldn't even see them at all on the screen when they were talking before this match started. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but that's another thing I have noted here. It's like they're doing the intro for the show and you can't even see them. Like it's just a dark shot of the crowd, basically. It's pretty horrible. And being a taped show, you'd think that they would maybe cut that out or just, I don't know, edit that somehow.
Well, as the past couple weeks of wrestling have taught us that taped shows, people don't really show judgment whenever it comes to editing taped shows until after the fact. So let's just move it along here to the next segment. This is going to be a short one. We're going to, after this match, we're going to cut to commercial and come back to Vince officially introducing us to what is going to be the premiere episode of the Action Zone. And I got to admit, guys, I got kind of pissed off because this Sunday on the Action Zone, there's going to be the final encounter between Bret Hart and Owen Hart in the brother versus brother feud. They give us some standard statements about who's going to win and, you know, video clips of one threatening the other and back and forth. And I am really sorry that we're going to miss this match. I know, some of our listeners out there might say, well, why don't you just go and watch it? That's not the format, folks. We watch Raw and we watch pay-per-views for this, and that's it. I mean, maybe in my own free time, but it's not going to be anything we're going to talk about on the podcast here. And I'm just sorry for that, because I think that could have been a great match. Anytime that you see Brett and Owen go at it in the ring together, it's usually good. So that sucks.
Well, it's obviously to get people to watch it.
Yeah.
But saying that it's the last one is a little odd.
Yeah, I mean, this was the inaugural episode, right, of the Action Zone?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of makes sense that they're making such a big deal and going to have such a big match on it to try and push it. But I agree, it's very sad we're not going to see it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like it is quite literally a pay-per-view level match.
Yeah.
We had that at SummerSlam, except it was in the cage, and that kind of made it bad. But I think that they could have done something else that was just as good, or at least what they, at the time, they thought would have been good. I can really see them thinking that a Lex Luger, Nikolai Volkov match would have been just as good as Brett and Owen. So from their viewpoint, I mean, not ours, just to clarify. After this, like I said, it's just a quick little thing, and we had to mention it here. After this, we're going to come back from the Action Zone commercial and go straight into our next match. The British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, defeats Roy Raymond by pinfall in 3 minutes and 31 seconds. And all right, folks, it's time to settle in for the rest of the night's squash matches. And I gotta say, that sounds like bitching, but I actually am kind of very comfortable with this format for the time being. It's nice to know what we're going to have. It's nice to know that we're blowing out this first big time match right off the bat to kind of get us going. And it's nice to know that the rest of the night is going to be mostly squash matches and just highlighting individual superstars. Plus, it's great because we get to see some excellent enhancement talent. Not so much in this match, but later on. So the Bulldog comes out to Red Pyro, and Vince just can't help himself. He's got to say the Rocket's red glare yet again. Again, we're going to remind everybody that the Bulldog does not have his hair in cornrows. And thank Friar Ferguson, Vince does not want to talk about Princess Di and Fergie when Macho tries to bring it up. He very wisely avoids the topic.
Yes, they are not the pride of England, like Davey Boy Smith.
Yeah. The Bulldog is a great powerhouse here in this match, and I'm very pleased to report that ring rust that we were seeing against the Anvil a couple weeks ago seems to be gone. He's moving fast, and he is looking good against this jobber. Roy Raymond, on the other hand, looks like a Beetlejuice throwback with the black and white vertical striped singlet. Just not very impressive at all. Nothing about this guy. The Bulldog uses a spate of power moves here, continues to look great doing it. And already we're going to see a huge difference between the Bulldog and the Anvil here. The Bulldog puts Roy Raymond in a headlock, but instead of sitting in it and stalling the match to catch his breath, it only lasts a second or two before the action ramps back up again. Roy Raymond does a couple decent moves here, actually starts to transcend jobber status and ascend to the status of enhancement talent. Roy Raymond body slams the Bulldog, and Vince says, "That's an awful lot of meat there to slam, that's for sure." The Bulldog puts Roy Raymond into a great superplex off the top rope, but then there's what looks like a botched spot where the Bulldog was going to whip Roy Raymond off the ropes, but one of the two lets go too early, and then when Raymond comes back off the ropes, one of the two is out of position, and the Bulldog goes down when he plants a knee to the guy. Vince passes it off as the Bulldog just losing his balance. The Bulldog ends up getting a pin with the power slam, and I have it noted here, the Bulldog hasn't even broken a sweat. The Bulldog is looking great here, and we're going to end this match by cutting to commercial. So, Joe, why don't you start talking about this match?
Roy Raymond. Roy Raymond. Roy Raymond. I thought maybe he'd show up. He's not here. Roy Raymond can't sell for shit. I thought he was
the jobber
terrible.
with the mostest.
I thought he was really bad in the ring. But yeah, you're right, Jason. I think I think the Bulldog is back in form. You know, he's looking pretty good in this match. I love the power slam. I always loved that finisher, especially for him. He's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect move for him. I am probably a complete idiot, but I'm now getting the jokes and the digs at NFL pregame shows because now we know Action Zone is going to be on Sundays at 12 o'clock. So that's obviously why they were
Mike Zicka makes sense now.
Bashing all of the NFL pregame shows. Yeah, but as far as the match goes, I mean, like you said, it's a squash match. It's a way to enhance the British Bulldog, and he looked pretty good here.
Just to back up what you both said, the Bulldog is, he's looking to be back into normal form here. We talked about the ring rust the last time we saw him in the ring, and there was a drastic difference this time. So he appears to be back in the swing of things, and it's good to see because I think we're all fans of Davey Boy Smith here.
Hell yeah.
The other thing, he, not just with the Wrestling Raw crew, but he gets a huge pop when he comes in. I mean, he is way, way over with the fans. As soon as he comes in.
Well, it's the Rockets Red Glare.
Yeah, Rockets Red Glare, exactly. You two ripped on Roy Raymond, which is fair. He wasn't the greatest in the ring, but he was a fucking house, though.
Yeah, he is a big guy.
And I don't mean fat. I mean, he was tall, muscular, big dude. I mean, he made the Bulldog height-wise and, look a little small, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a monster. And he actually went up on the top rope. He did a couple nice moves, but there were a couple of times, like on the botched move, whip off the rope, his jobber status was kind of coming out.
Yeah.
But other than that, like we say about these matches many times, it did its job. It moved it on, and there was nothing glaring in this match that made it bad. It was just your kind of run-of-the-mill star versus jobber match.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you guys on just about all of that. It was a very serviceable match, and it helped to keep the Bulldogs' momentum going, helped to keep him over. Definitely over with us, so all to the good as far as I'm concerned. The next segment that we're going to talk about here, it's a little bit of a long one. It's not huge, though. This is, we're going to do some flashbacks with a commercial and some ringside chatter here. We're going to return from commercial with the Bulldogs still in the ring, flexing and posing. Vince talks about how there wasn't any love earlier this weekend for Arnold Skaaland, the former manager of the former WWF champion, Mr. Bob Backlund. And apparently Bob Backlund put the chicken wing on Skaaland. There, I guess, must have been some weird timing issues going on here, because this whole time that Vince has been talking, he's been yelling over the Bulldog's music because the Bulldog is still in the ring posing and trying to interact with the crowd. And then for just a split second, we get some clips of what Vince is talking about. This is Vince in the ring, apparently interviewing Arnold Skaaland, and Bob Backlund runs down to the ring in a three-piece suit, gets in Skaaland's face and starts finger pointing at him. But then this is where we cut to another commercial. Things are, a little disjointed in this sequence of events.
I thought maybe Bob was going to put the chicken wing on Burt Reynolds.
It would be the last chapter in my life.
Yeah. I tell you what, guys, this was the most awkward and uncomfortable thing I've seen on Raw so far, I think. When we come back from the commercial break, it's a video clip of Burt Reynolds at an autograph signing for his book, My Life, talking to and shaking hands with a middle-aged woman. After she walks away, he grimaces and then looks at the camera and says, "This is Raw. You should read my book." And then goes right back to faking interest in the next person in line for an autograph. Back at ringside, Vince is looking very fucking pleased with himself that they got that out of Burt Reynolds. He's telling us that Burt Reynolds knows everything there is to know about Monday Night Raw for some goddamn reason.
Maybe he's a huge fan.
Yeah, I guess. That's probably not the kind of Raw that we're talking about when we're talking about Burt Reynolds. But so we're back to talking about Arnold Skaaland and Bob Backlund here. Bob Backlund marches down to ringside in his robe like he's ready for a match. Backlund calls Vince over to him. Savage says, "You better go talk to him. I ain't interested." Backlund, how's he put it? He's tapped. He's gonzo. See you later, Bob Backlund. It was kind of funny, his Savage dismissing Bob Backlund there. Vince, of course, wants to talk about what happened with Skoland. Backlund doesn't want to talk about it. And I've almost forgotten here that it was Backlund that came out wanting to talk, but now Vince is interviewing him. Like, it was very disjointed. Backlund came out like he had an agenda, like he had something pointed he wanted to say, but then Vince got up and like it was a planned interview, you know. We finally get to the clips from Superstars this past weekend with Skoland trying to shake hands with Backlund after apologizing for throwing the towel in 11 some years ago. And Vince is loudly yelling at Backlund with a lot of self-righteousness here. And then as Vince is trying to escort Skoland out of the ring, Backlund runs up behind him, puts Skoland in the chicken wing. And it was a great, very brief 2 seconds of seeing Backlund snap on this overweight retired wrestling manager. Vince can't stop talking when he shouldn't be. We're back at the present ringside now. Backlund says he should apologize to everyone, and there's a close-up of Bob Backlund's face as he's shouting about the Publians. And guys, my bad. I think this is where I fucked up in my observations last week. So last week on Wrestling Raw, I made the assertion that Bob Backlund was wearing a bite guard along with his three-piece suit. This week, I am here to officially announce I was wrong. I am the asshole here. We know this because we get a disgusting close-up view of Howdy Doody's face, and he isn't wearing a bite guard. His top teeth are just so drastically different from his bottom teeth that it looks like he's wearing a bite guard.
His bottom teeth look like he just left Isaac Yankum's office.
Yes.
Okay, so now that we've had this fucking, surgical close-up of his mouth, can you guys at least see where I might have made the mistake? Like, it's significantly different.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And very, very white.
Yes. Oh, yeah, different in shape, in color, in care.
Yeah. The top is like, nice, white, normal-looking teeth, and then the bottom, it looks like he just came out of Isaac Yankum's office. Like, they are so incredibly jacked. It looks like Sloth from the Goonies.
I could only assume his top teeth looked the same, and the top are all fake, is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be some kind of a, I don't know, like not plate, but I don't know, partial or whatever the hell you call that thing.
Implant or something, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to get it out there, and I'm not going to vacillate between facts and lies. I'm not one of these Publians. I'll admit when I'm the asshole, and I was wrong. So Backlund is floundering throughout this entire promo, trying to come up with new and exciting ways to shame the public. Before, like I'm talking a couple weeks ago, he was good at inserting random intelligent-sounding vocab words into his promos, and here he's starting to force it and misuse some of them. And I don't know if that's on purpose as part of the gradual onset of dementia gimmick, or because he's just not that great at doing this kind of promo, or what. But we do get a shining golden nugget when Backlund shouts, "I have never, have ever eaten marijuana."
I fucking popped so hard when I heard that. I laughed. And the next thing that he says, I fucking laughed my ass off at that too.
Or swear in front of my children.
Yes. Yeah. I've never swore in front of my children.
And with perfect timing, as Backlund is talking about swearing in front of his children, in between two of his sentences, some little kid in the background close by yells, "You suck!" perfectly in between his lines. It was great.
Suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked.
Yeah. And just when I thought it couldn't, there's a couple Simpsons references that are going on here. I can't wait to talk about the big one that I picked up on later. We'll get to that, though. So just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, here comes Lex Luger. Lex Luger sounds like a moron trying to cut this promo on Backlund. Luger tough talks Backlund by calling him Bobby and saying he ought to pick on someone his own size. To his credit, Backlund is in the ring and ready to go. He does this crazy ass like chicken walk thing around the circle real quick.
What the fuck was that?
Okay, I thought that you two might bring it up.
Yeah, what is it, Mr. Wrestling Expert?
That walk is at the beginning of practice every day. We would do a practice takedown where you basically would do exactly what he's doing, the length of the gym on the mats. It's the motion that you would make while doing a single leg or double leg takedown. And to make it automatic, it was something you would do like 100 times a practice, just so it was a fluid motion when you were in a match. So unless you were a wrestler, it just looks like he's walking around like a complete fucking moron.
I have to say, I hate this real wrestling talk that you're talking right now.
I'm just telling you what it actually is, like what he is doing here.
It's too real for me. Sorry, I don't like it.
Well, I mean, I get it. I think it's kind of cool that they're trying it, but man.
But he's too howdy doody looking.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but all of it.
Like it'd be different if this was Kurt Angle doing this.
I was just about to bring up Kurt Angle. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Brock Lesnar, or
perfect comparison.
Yeah.
Well, so that right there is what I was going to hit on with Kurt Angle. And before anybody says it, I know that it's two different ages, two different generations, two different, Attitude Era versus whatever the fuck era this is.
Gold medalist.
Yeah. Gold medal level versus, collegiate all-star. I think he was he was a state champ, but he never went beyond that. Backlund, I mean.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So they had basically the same gimmick. But Angle never did any of this shit. The closest he got to it was at the beginning, like he wore headgear a couple times, and then like a couple times. Well, no, I take that back. Most of the time he would do that same, like on the balls of your toe, like tiptoes, like bouncing, like whenever you're waiting for your opponent to come to the ring, that kind of like bouncing motion where you're like staying, it looks like you're staying limber, Angle would do that.
Right. Like trying to warm yourself up.
Yeah, exactly. But he never did this stupid fucking chicken walk.
Which makes sense because outside of people who actually wrestle or care about wrestling, which is a minute amount of people in America, you're not going to realize what the hell he's doing. So most people are just going to be completely clueless to it.
Oh, this must be part of his gradual onset of dementia gimmick.
Yeah, I guess.
Look at this crazy man chicken dance.
Yeah. In a fucking maroon furry robe. All right. So, yeah, again, to his credit, after all of this back and forth, Backlund is in the ring and ready to go, but the officials are holding off Luger for some reason. I'm assuming it's because they're going to have a match next week, maybe. And we're going to cut to commercial. Ryan, do you have anything additional you would like to add to this whole thing?
You know how much of a fan of Bob Backlund I am. Not much. I mean, you covered everything that's even remotely important. The only thing that I think you didn't cover that I kind of laughed at was right when they came back from the video of Bob putting the chicken wing on his old manager. Vince, just like before, when he was screaming, he's not a wrestler, he kept on screaming, "You owe him an apology."
Yeah.
I got a kick out of that. Outside of that, nothing.
Yeah, Vince was getting a little mouthy, showing his Mr. McMahon side there a little bit.
Yeah.
A couple things I have noted mostly deal with Luger. That Olympics starter jacket that he was wearing was actually pretty badass.
I mean, it was a starter jacket.
I kind of liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a 96 Olympics jacket. Did you look at the date on the back of it? I think
so. It was at Atlanta.
Yeah. Atlanta 96. And this is 1994.
Yeah. So they were already plugging the Olympic swag in 94.
Well, I believe Luger was in the 96 Olympics for chess, right?
Jesus Christ.
He did have like a 3.6 GPA, right?
That's what he said.
I think this was a big swing and a miss for the whole Luger situation here. I think it's like maybe they would have had something here, but this was just so anticlimactic. I mean, it was like he comes out and does this almost like a challenge, but not really. And then he just like walks away with security. So I didn't really understand that. Like, I wish they kind of would have gotten the ring and just had a match, really.
He must have eaten too much marijuana before coming down.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, big swing and a miss here on the Lex Luger situation.
Yeah, so the only thing that I'm going to add to the breakdown of it that I gave already is that what I came out of this with is a desire to watch Bob Backlund make Lex Luger tap out with the crossface chicken wing. And I never thought that that was a position I was going to be in halfway through this Raw.
Well, it's saying pick on someone your own size when Luger's this jacked up Ico Pro roided out freak.
Yeah.
Behemoth.
Yeah.
Bobby. Listen here, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby.
Speaking of Bob.
Yeah, so after we cut to that commercial, we're going to come back and go straight into our next match. Bob Sparkplug Holly, my friends call me Sparky, defeating Reno Riggins by pinfall in 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Riggins is already in the ring, ready to go when we come back to this match. And I went into this match with high expectations. After last week, hearing about Reno Riggins as the jobber of the week and just the little bit of background that I know about Bob Holly as a wrestler, I got to admit, I had high expectations, and I personally wasn't disappointed in this match. I really like Bob Holly's color change here. He's got black tights, or not tights, but a black singlet with the black and white checkers going up and down the sides. Much more suitable for him and his gimmick than that weird-ass neon abortion he was wearing before. Savage is still dumbfounded with Backlund's statements about eating marijuana. He talks about it a couple times. But he must have chewed it but didn't swallow, so that's good news. Backlund could run for president, which ironically he does in the future, or at least, you know, in the wrestling world, in this fantasy we call Raw. There's in the match here, there's a particularly tight sequence of events that ends with a great belly to back suplex, and I have to say, Reno Riggins is still the consummate enhancement talent we got a taste of last week in his match with Mabel, and again from Ryan's Jobber of the Week segment. It's good to see him here in action with somebody who isn't a slow piece of shit and can actually work with him in the ring. At one point, whenever Riggins temporarily, very, very temporarily has the upper hand, he sees the camera and he takes the initiative to yell at the camera, "This is Monday Night Riggins!" And eventually Riggins transitions a bounce off the ropes into a hair pull head slam off the mat. Riggins and Holly both looking great, selling and working, and just very, very tight match. Bob Holly eventually does a very nice flying press off the top rope, gets the 3 count. The bell is rung. The match is over. Joe, opinions, please.
Not much here other than what you've already mentioned. I pretty much agree with a lot of what you said there, especially with the new ring gear for Sparkplug. I like it. And Reno Riggins is probably, I mean, he's easily top 3 jobbers that we've seen so far since the beginning of 93.
Yeah.
Maybe the best. I did notice he didn't have his dice boots on, though, so that was a little disappointing.
I did look for those.
Knock a point
for that. But yeah, Reno, I actually enjoy watching the matches that he's in.
This match was kind of a textbook star versus enhancement talent match. This is what you want. It only lasted, 3 minutes or under, but there was speed. All the moves were tight. Reno Riggins, I mean, it's why he was the jobber last week, because he is a hell of a jobber. You both mentioned one of the best we've seen, maybe the best, because all of his moves were fast and looked realistic, and I believed him. When Reno turned the tides quickly with that running dive hair pull slam thing, that looked really good. He got some nice air out of it.
Yeah.
His Irish whips into the turnbuckle looked good. It was a perfect jobber match. The only thing out of commentary I would mention was they briefly bring up that Sparky Plug will be racing in the Poconos soon, in some winter race of some sort.
Yeah.
In the WWF car. Now, if I remember correctly, Joe, back in our Raw So Far series, did you say that never ended up actually happening?
That what never ended up happening?
The WWF having a race car.
I think that was Bartlett that mentioned that from the Bob Hall,
okay.
Bruce Pritchard podcast, right?
Yeah. So what I had said is, and this is in reference to the Bruce Pritchard Something to Wrestle episode about Bob Holly. The original plan, if I'm remembering it correctly, was to have Bob Holly both be a racer and be a wrestler, but him racing, I don't think came to fruition. I think I think they might have done a small sponsorship deal. Like they might have stuck a WWF sticker on a NASCAR, on a regular NASCAR, and then did like photo ops and stuff. And on top of this, because Bob Holly had to keep up his like, I don't know what you'd call them, I guess, real world skills. Bob Holly did still occasionally do some racing, but not anything like what they're talking about here. It wasn't like in a WWF car or anything. It was in like a little funny car on a dirt track somewhere.
Hickory Speedway.
Yeah, Hickory Speedway, Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, outside of Reno Riggins being the consummate jobber, that's it for this match for me.
I totally agree with both of you. This is exactly what you want in a squash match. Short, to the point, but damn good action. This is what enhancement talent is all about. The next segment that we're going to talk about is real short. I'll just ask both of your opinions real quick after this. We get some video clips talking about what's going to be coming up on next week's Raw. Razor Ramon is apparently going to be defending his Intercontinental title against Yokozuna next week. Ryan, did you have any thoughts about that announcement briefly?
I'm intrigued by this match. I'm interested to see how it's going to play out because we know Razor Ramon is a professional in the ring, and Yoko at times has been able to do some decent matches depending on his opponent. So I'm intrigued. I'm not expecting much, but I want to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, a couple things for me with this. Number one, it seems like we have a pattern forming here with every Raw. This is probably going to be the opening match next week.
Yeah.
And then the rest is going to be jobber matches. But we have been also noticing a pattern with Yokozuna, which is obviously in a feud with Undertaker. So I have a feeling there will be some sort of interference somewhere, or some maybe Undertaker or Paul Bearer appearance. Who knows? And also, it's kind of disappointing that they have nothing for Razor right now. He's the IC champ, and they just kind of have him in these random matches.
Yeah.
They don't really have a feud for him right now, so it's a little disappointing. So hopefully that changes soon.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that the most that we've seen out of Razor recently was that Catholic Church commercial last week. It was a great commercial, don't get me wrong, but
yeah, well, we saw him against Tatanka a couple weeks ago, which was a random match.
Yeah.
But yes, there's no feud going on.
Obviously forgettable.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to think about Razor Ramon and Yokozuna next week. I now that you say that, Joe, I bet you that's what's going to happen. Is it's going to be more of a vehicle for Paul Bearer and the Undertaker to be fucking with Yokozuna.
Yeah.
But that being said, this short video package is going to take us right into our next match. Erwin R. Shyster, IRS, defeating Tim McNeely by submission in 1 minute and 54 seconds. And Tim McNeely is our Jobber of the Week. Take it, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Jason. Tim McNeely is this week's jobber. Tim McNeely was born in Boston and began his wrestling career in 1990, training under the legend Killer Kowalski at the Killer Kowalski's Wrestling University. He would make his in-ring and WWF debut in July 20th, 1992. Being enhancement talent, he would lose his first match in a tag team loss to IRS and the $1 Million Man. In 1994, while still working as a jobber for the WWF, he would start tutoring young talent for the Killer Kowalski Wrestling University. His first student being none other than Triple H. He would work with Triple H for the next 2 years until he would make his WWF debut in 1996. In 1995, Tim would gain the nickname The Graduate after graduating summa cum laude with a degree in sociology and criminal justice. His first match after graduating would be against Japanese martial artist Hakushi. In this match, Tim would wear his freshly pressed cap and gown to the ring and cut a promo playing up his intelligence, thus giving birth to the name The Graduate. He would, of course, lose this match. Throughout the late 90s, Tim would become a full-blown teacher at the Killer Kowalski Wrestling University, training many WWF superstars, including Chyna, Scotty 2 Hotty, Doink the Clown, though not mentioned which Doink the Clown, and Prince Albert, just to name a few. In early 2000, Tim would start wrestling for a new promotion in his native New England area called World Wrestling Alliance, or the WWA. Tim would become their first heavyweight champion in June of 2000. He would become the promotion's most decorated champion, winning the belt a record 3 times and holding it for over 518 days. In 2005, Tim would retire from in-ring action. He currently lives in Boston while continuing to help out younger talent and doing interviews from time to time.
You know, I think that is, I mean, it makes sense, but it is cool to hear you say it, that the jobber equivalent of popping your cherry is your first loss.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Do you think that Tim McNeely could beat Lex Luger in a chess match?
Yes.
Great question.
I think he could, hands down.
Okay.
I mean, come on. He's summa cum laude.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that a chicken could probably beat Lex Luger in a chess match. So anyway.
Dink and Wink could probably both beat him.
Thank you very much, Ryan, for the Jobber of the Week segment. Entertaining as always.
And I would like to bring up to our fans, if you remember from a few weeks ago, this is the jobber that received the sunglass snapping from Owen Hart and the Anvil. Yeah. So just a little tidbit so you know who we're talking about here.
One of the best things that we've seen, quite possibly like top 5 things that we've seen in Raw since its debut in January of 93. The glasses snapping. Performed on Tim McNeely by Owen Hart. So we're going to get this match. I mean, it's like I said before, it's a minute 54. The $1 Million Man leads IRS out to the ring. McNeely's in the ring waiting for him. And IRS gets the microphone and says, "There are only 2 sure things in this world. One is death. The other is taxes. And soon I'm going to be exposing the biggest tax cheat in World Wrestling Federation history, and that is The Undertaker." This is completely unexpected and illogical, and Vince and Savage are both just as confused as I am, apparently. Totally out of left field. I mean...
real head scratcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were talking about Jeff Jarrett's promo earlier, and I actually had that noted for this one. Like, this is just such a cheap heat comment to get the crowd fired up. Like, obviously it's not going to be the beginning of any feud or anything. It's just totally random.
Did the Undertaker fail to pay the death tax? I mean, what happened here?
Well, and I'm not saying this because I know anything for a fact, but spoiler alert, whenever you're scrolling through the network app to go back to old Raw episodes, the episode right after this, I think, either right after this one or the one after that, so which would be like 2 weeks in the future from what we're talking about right now. The still, you know how like the one still is that picture of Howard Finkel with his baseball cap turned to the side looking like a thug?
Yeah. The thumbnail photo.
Yeah, the thumbnail photo of either next week or the week after that is of IRS standing next to a freshly exhumed casket that still has like clods of dirt and stuff on it. I'm not saying it's like a feud, but
does it have a W-9 on it or anything, or 1099?
So maybe I am correct. He didn't pay the death tax for dying.
The estate or inheritance tax or whatever, whenever his parents died after Kane burned down the funeral home.
Spoiler alert.
Who's Kane?
Yeah, that's Paul Bearer's son.
Isaac Yankem?
So, but anyway, I'm not sure where it's going. I'm saying that honestly. I have no idea where it's going, but it does seem like they are going to try to do something over the next couple of weeks leading up to Survivor Series. But what I was surprised and put off by was just how out of nowhere this was. There wasn't even like, give me 5 minutes of a promo last week saying something about like, you know, IRS is doing some investigating. Maybe that's what Vince was talking about last week whenever he was quote unquote conspicuous in his absence from the Lex Luger Bam Bam Bigelow match. I don't know.
He was digging through funeral records.
Yeah, he was performing an audit on the funeral home maybe. But anyway, getting back to the match here, poor little Timmy is just getting his ass handed to him here. Thankfully, again, really short match. IRS locks in the penalty submission hold. The match is over. We cut to commercial. Joe, thoughts on this match, please?
Honestly, I really have nothing noted for this. I'm not an IRS fan, especially, I mean, his matches, and I guess I'm not a fan. Some of his promos are good, and I like the gimmick a little bit, but I like the penalty move. I like that. I hate how Vince's commentary when he's applying that move is always so weird to me. It's like he doesn't know what it's called, or do you guys notice that?
Yeah.
It seems odd.
Yeah.
He's always the one that comes up with the name, the penalty, but yeah, it's almost like he forgets it and he has to kind of stumble for a little bit to remember what it's called or something.
Yeah, I definitely noticed it here, but I've noticed it before, but this time it was just really obvious that, I don't know, it's like he didn't know what it was called. He forgot. But yeah, that's pretty much all I mean, this is just a squash.
Yeah, it's a complete squash match. Even though I have Tim as our jobber of the week, it's because I love his facial reactions to things, like just the way he reacts to the penalty here, just beautiful. But the match itself, it's just your standard jobber match, like so many other from this week. There's no ugly spot or anything bad about the match per se. It's just a standard jobber match, and it does what it's supposed to do, and we move on.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you guys. You know, it killed 2 minutes. It is what it is. It wasn't overly horrible, but then again, in a minute 54, it's kind of hard to make it be good or horrible. I shouldn't say that, because as soon as I say that, I'll be proven wrong, and we'll get a minute 30 match that's just miserable to watch.
Mabel versus Queasy.
Oh my God. Holy shit. Okay.
They both come out rapping.
Queasy barely able to speak English and slightly intoxicated.
Queasy could come out singing the Ludwig Borga album.
Oh, wow. See, I'm not the one that ever brings him up. You guys are always bringing up that amazing man, that public servant, Ludwig Borga. Just, you know, sacrificing his body and his mind and his emotions for the people. We're going to return from commercial to get footage from Superstars this past weekend. Yokozuna is in the ring. This is footage from Superstars. This isn't happening right now. Yokozuna is in the ring, sweating profusely, which is not an indicator as to whether or not the match that he's in is just beginning or just getting done with. We don't know. The lights go down and the tolling bell of The Undertaker hits the arena. People lose their shit. It's always cool to see. Cornette and Fuji are freaking out at ringside, and Paul Bearer wheels out the double wide, double deep casket. Double wide, double deep! And takes the cover off of it. It has "Rest in Peace" painted in a graphic on the lid. Now, Yoko doesn't see this, however, because he's facing the wrong direction. Paul Bearer parks the casket with the lid open behind Yoko. Yoko starts backing up away from the center of the ring, backing towards the casket. Yoko finally turns around, sees the casket, and this is the fastest I have ever seen him move. He freaks out, drops to the mat, rolls out of the ring. He trips and falls as he's running out of the ring. The crowd loves it. So did I. Joe, what'd you think of this nice little video package?
Well, it's still Yoko's best work. The work that he's doing with The Undertaker. Yeah, we, as fans, we rip Yokozuna and his abilities quite a bit on this podcast. And people that are in the business tend to do the opposite. You know, they talk about what a great athlete he was for his size and everything. And I honestly, like, this whole thing with The Undertaker is the best thing that he did. Just being scared of The Undertaker, along with the fact that they really did a great job with these casket matches, like making The Undertaker look like this unstoppable force. You have a casket match, like, you're not going to win against The Undertaker.
Yeah, the build up for both of them has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have a build up for this for quite a few weeks that I love seeing it. And then we have a build up like the Doink midgets and King midgets, and it's like, please make it stop.
Yeah.
But this is very enjoyable.
Like you just said, this is definitely Yoko's best work. When he turns around and sees the casket, just his reaction and how he falls and stumbles and then quickly rolls out of the ring, it's just great. It's really great acting out of Yoko here. So, I mean, it's very short. There's nothing else to say. Fantastic work out of Yoko reaction here. I loved it.
Yeah, agreed with both you guys on this. You know, just the frantic scrabbling around to get out of the ring, and the frantic, I mean, who knows whether he planned to trip or not, like if that was part of it. But one way or the other, he trips and it looked realistic as hell. He looked like he was shitting his diaper or whatever that thing is.
He fell again going up the ramp.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It looked like he.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the fall in the ring.
Oh, no. Whenever he gets just past ringside and he goes to hit the ramp at the entranceway, and I think he hit it at like a wrong angle or something and tripped over it. I think he might have made himself fall. You know,
it was great though.
Yeah, it's good stuff. When we return to Raw, we've got Jim Cornette in the ring, grabbing the microphone out of the announcer's hand, and this is going to be our final match of the night. The Heavenly Bodies defeat Nick Barbary and Barry Horowitz by pinfall in 2 minutes and 29 seconds. With the microphone, Cornette yells, "Here they are, the team that has won more wrestling matches than Elvis and the Beatles combined. The Doctor of Desire, Tom Pritchard, and the Gigolo, Jimmy Del Rey." They're coming down the entryway, and Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey gives us an extremely perverse round of pelvic thrusts.
So hideous.
Repulsive.
Quite disgusting. That being said, this is a fast-paced match for a squash match. It's not all that technically tight, but it still was somewhat entertaining for me personally, at least. Barry Horowitz is doing some good work here as an enhancement talent. Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey lands a move on Nick Barbary that Vince and Macho both comment on as being a move they've never seen before. And I can't think of what to call it, but it's actually a move that we've seen done a few times in AEW in the past couple weeks. Again, I can't think of like a name to call it, but it's something that has been getting done recently in modern wrestling. So, just kind of keep your eye out for that.
AEW, of course, has been following Wrestling Raw.
Yeah.
It makes sense that they would be doing it.
Well, I try to be humble about our little podcast enterprise here, and I try not to, I try to downplay the effects that our words have on the industry as a whole. Speaking of which, Gigolo Jimmy has put on a few pounds here. Hint, hint, Jimmy. Need to lose some. Vince references the Heavenly Body's wings getting clipped by the Smoking Guns, and this is the first time in a couple weeks that I've been reminded that the Smoking Guns exist. After a powerbomb from the Doctor of Desire, Tom Pritchard, Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey puts his pelvis and his livelihood on the line yet again with a moonsault off the top rope and just barely makes it over the whole way. He hits Nick Barbary in the knees.
It was a sloppy one.
Yeah, he hits Nick Barbary in the knees with his forehead, and it was fucking ugly. He does get the 3 count though, and this is the Simpsons reference that I was mentioning earlier. So they win, they get the 3 count, the bell is rung, and the Heavenly Body's music hits, and their music makes me think of that scene from The Simpsons where Homer takes Bart to the steel mill, and it turns into a gay dance club.
Yes,
we work hard, we play hard.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. But their music sounds like techno music with like a hammer hitting an anvil in the background, keeping the beat. That's what made me think of it. But so anyway, that being said, Ryan, what'd you have to say about this match?
Like the last few matches, a very tight jobber match. I mean, going into it, we of course know who is going to win here. The Heavenly Bodies are going to come away victorious, but Nick Barbary and Barry Horowitz, they put up a good show here. The back and forth is smooth like it's been all night. I have to say, this has been some of the most consistent jobber matches that we've seen yet, quality-wise. Really good work out of the jobbers tonight. But, of course, the Heavenly Bodies are going to nail the win after his sloppy flip off the top rope. But as far as things outside the match go, I did want to bring up Jim Cornette. I think we all he's always a entertaining guy in the ring. So
yeah.
When he was at the beginning, he's introducing the Heavenly Bodies. And I noticed that though during this intro, he did not make any ill-fated jokes about fried chicken or Ethiopia here. So that's a good thing on him. That's just a little current news.
Man.
Jason, you mentioned a couple things that sort of tie into my notes here. The Smoking Guns, who forgot they existed. Yeah, this is the most dead that we've seen the tag team division since we started doing this podcast.
Which is really saying something.
93. Yes. Like, it's just dead. It's dead. There's nothing going on with the tag team division. You mentioned the move that Del Rey put on Nick Barbary. It looked like Nick Barbary kind of botched it.
So are you saying that Nick Barbary was out of position?
It looked like it to me. And I don't know if you noticed, but Vince says Nick Barbary hasn't seen that maneuver before and he may never see it again. Meaning Nick Barbary, you're fired.
Similar to the comment about the fake Undertaker.
Yeah. And, I'm pretty sure that that's probably exactly what it means, because we joke around about Jimmy Del Rey breaking his pelvis, but that's exactly what happened to him back in, I want to say it was June. He was doing he was doing this exact same move, a moonsault off the top rope. I forget who the jobber was, probably Mike Bell. I don't know. I'm just guessing. And the jobber was out of position, and because the jobber was out of position, Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey broke his pelvis, lost his livelihood as a gigolo, and was out for quite a while. So yeah, good call on that, Joe.
My only other note that I have is another Vince comment that he calls out Del Rey's dancing as being repulsive, which I thought was just a great commentary note from Vince, and that's all I have.
Okay. As much of a fan as I am of the Heavenly Bodies, they have gone downhill. I hate to say it. When they first showed up on the scene here in the WWF about a year ago now, just about, they were great. They were the best tag team in the WWF at the time, and they weren't even dedicated WWF tag team wrestlers. But man, ever since that broken pelvis, old Jimmy just ain't been the same. Putting on the weight, yeah, it's a shame. I think he's lost a bit of his mojo, maybe. Steadily downhill. But again, like you said, the whole tag team division is it's just in the shits right now. And like Ryan, like you said, that is really saying something considering where we've been and where we're coming from with some of this stuff. We're going to move it along to the final segments of the night here. So Lex Luger is going to have some things to say about the earlier altercation with Backlund. It's just a short thing that, short interview with Luger backstage that Vince conducts. It's like pulling teeth to get complete sentences and intelligent statements out of Lex Luger. Lex calls him Bobby again a couple times, and Luger is challenging Backlund to take on a new generation wrestler to see what he's got. And we're going to cut to commercial. We're going to return from that commercial to ringside, and we get our outro information. Next week on Monday Night Raw, there's going to be a very special announcement from our very own Todd Pettengill. And I can't wait to hear what that's going to be. There's going to be a 7-footer in the ring, and that can only mean the co-holder of the WWF Tag Team Championship, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, in singles action. Yokozuna will be challenging Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental title. And this Sunday, again, is the world premiere of the Action Zone. Bret Hart defending the WWF title against his brother, Owen Hart. And again, I really wish that match would be on the primetime show, Raw, instead of Action Zone. See you later, everyone, and we fade to black. So that's it for this episode of Raw. Highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you take it?
Right before I get into my highlights and lowlights, I wanted to bring up one short thing. Right before the Lex Luger promo, we get a quick Macho Man commercial for Slim Jim, which makes sense that we skip it because, we get 2 of these every week.
Yeah.
But I wanted to point out that today at ringside, he is wearing the exact same outfit as the Slim Jim outfit. So that's just worth noting.
That he got from a bag lady.
Yeah. Right. So, to highlights and lowlights. My highlights for the week is that we are out of Utica, and this actually feels like a fresh Raw. We're getting newer references, although we still get a quick reference to Princess Di. There's no talk of Roseanne Barr, so that's great. And it just really feels like we're starting to head into Survivor Series and not just spinning our wheels trying to make up time now. So I really like that. I also really like that this was a very tight Raw. There's no match that really sticks out as that was a horrible match or this person really botched that move. It was just all around a solid Raw. My lowlights, though, are going to go to all of the out of the ring activity between the midgets. Yeah, the whole thing with the midgets just really distracted from what could have been a decent match, even though it involved fake doink. We did have Jeff Jarrett, who is a great worker. So it just really distracted from the match and added nothing. So that's my low light.
I will start with my low. I have 2 lowlights, 2 highlights for this show. My lowlights, the first one goes along with Ryan's, just the length of this Doink and Lawler feud that's going on right now. It almost reminds me a little bit of the fake Undertaker thing, because it's something that we know is not going to end anytime soon, but you're just like, my God, will it please stop? The second low light is the fact that we now have developed a pattern of starting every show with the marquee match that they advertised the prior week, and then the rest of the show is just garbage, just jobber matches. So I don't know. I kind of wish they'd break that pattern a little bit. Now, one of my highlights sort of goes with they kind of did break the pattern a little bit because there was no King's Court this week. I thought that was a highlight, just to get a little bit of a change of pace. And then my other highlight is getting to see Double J in action, because I feel like it had been a very long time since we saw him.
Yeah, it feels like it was way back in the middle of our Raw So Far episodes the last time we talked about Double J.
Yeah.
So can I ask you what it is about the current banner match being the first and then jobber matches the rest of the night. What about that formula do you dislike?
Just very predictable. I feel like every week it's like if you're watching this in 1994 and you're watching, the 3 weeks in Utica, for example, you know what the first match is going to be. You know the rest of the show is trash. So why even tune in?
So like it's too easy to get accustomed to the formula.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's and they plug it as this, you never know what to expect on Monday Night Raw, but it's like, well, we kind of do. I mean, you're going to have a King's Court every week. You're going to have Yokozuna versus Razor Ramon, the first match next week.
Yeah.
Jerry Lawler's probably going to introduce a third midget. Like, I don't know. It's
45 minutes of talking and squash matches.
Yeah. And I get it. You do this every week. It's tough to come up with something new all the time, but it's just something I've noticed that I don't really care for.
Well, I mean, that's certainly valid. I'm not going to argue it. I personally kind of like it for the time being. If this were to be the format for the next 20 years of Raw, I would get pretty damn sick of it pretty damn fast. But for the time being, I kind of like the predictability of it. Maybe it's just because of organizing my notes for this podcast. Kind of think I might just be being selfish in that one because I know whenever I'm sitting down to watch this Raw with my, my laptop and, my voice recorder and all the notes and shit that I have to take, it's kind of comforting to know that the big match that we need to like really pay attention to is going to be the very first one. And the ones after that are kind of like, well, I know they're going to be squash matches. I can afford to enjoy them a little more and not have to be like zoned in on them. But again, that's just me. So for my highlights and lowlights, I am going to agree with both of you on the highlight. It is great to be out of Utica. You can hear it in the commentary, or actually it's like Ryan said, in what you don't hear in the commentary. It feels fresh. That's a great way of putting it. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but thinking back to our discussions that we had last week for the final leg of Utica versus our discussions that we've had so far tonight, it just feels to me as though we are enjoying this a little bit more than we did last week, even though, I mean, technically the matches this week weren't all that great. They were certainly not that much better than the matches we had last week. But just the simple fact that we're not in Utica anymore. We're on a new leg of the Heart Attack Tour, apparently. I mean, we are going to spend 3 days, I guess, in Vermont, but I think it's probably 3 days in Vermont. But still, it's good to be out of the fucking Memorial Auditorium in Utica, New York. Low light, again, I'm going to agree with you guys. This midget shit is just, I can't handle it. It's so stupid. I can't imagine who this is. Okay, let me rephrase that. I can think of like little kids and stuff that this type of storyline would be geared towards, like the target audience for this whole midget thing, little kids and idiots. And even though I can intellectually like kind of come to that, like, okay, there's somebody out there that probably likes this. Man, is it horrible. It is freaking horrible. Running around the ring and just being the distraction. Like, they totally distracted from the storytelling.
And it's not funny at all.
No, it isn't. Doink is practically a jobber at this point. I think we mentioned that last week, but it's even more so apparent this week. But you know what? If he's going to be a jobber, that's fine. He had a great chance to enhance Jeff Jarrett here. Not that Jeff Jarrett really needed it all that much, but it had the potential to be a fantastic match if it would have just been Jarrett and Doink, with Jarrett calling spots and everything quietly in between their moves. If they could have just left it in Jarrett's hands, I have a feeling that this could have been a really, really good match. But because of all of this midget stuff happening, horrible, fucking horrible. I am looking forward to after Survivor Series when we don't have to deal with this shit anymore. So, that being said, Joe, do you have any contemporary wrestling news on and around October 17th, 1994?
Yes, I do. So I have mentioned this before that Jacques Rougeau from the Quebecers had left the WWF, according to the Observer. I don't know how this happened or if this was a WWF show. It had to be, but I'm not quite sure. But he had a retirement match at a show in Montreal on October 21st of 1994 in front of a sold-out crowd of 16,000 people. So I don't know if WWF was going into Canada yet at this time. I don't think they were. So that was a little interesting to hear, like how over Jacques Rougeau was in Montreal. Like he was loved there. So that's the first note. The second note here is we mentioned that Diesel will be in action as a singles wrestler next week, correct?
Yeah.
And that is because supposedly Shawn Michaels broke his hand on October 14th. So that is why Diesel will be in singles action, and they cannot announce this on TV because they have about 3 weeks of Action Zone taped with Shawn Michaels in action. So they don't want to announce that. Dave Meltzer seems to be highly entertained by all the Bob Backlund stuff, particularly the Heartbreak Hotel segment that we talked about last week. He seems to be loving it. I have to say I have.
That's weird.
Yeah, I have mixed opinions on it. I don't know. I hate the push that he's getting, but I am entertained by some of the stuff that he's doing. I'll say that. So this sounds like it could be some Dave Meltzer bullshit, but I thought this was interesting to read this. So Jim Cornette cut a promo that was getting major heat in Burlington.
No.
He didn't go into the details.
Not Cornette.
But he said that this will not air on TV. And Meltzer is reporting that the WWF is using the crowd footage from that promo to splice into interviews or matches with heels who are not over to make it appear as though they are. Pumping noise, according to Dave Meltzer.
I fucking knew it.
Also, it appears I wasn't completely off in the fried chicken statement, because he did cut something here they had to cut out.
Yeah, I assume it was probably something related to Burlington, the people of Burlington, Vermont. I don't know if it was, but it could have had something to do with fried chicken. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes you wonder because, we've talked about, man, I can't believe the pop that Lex Luger is getting, or this heel is getting a lot of heat, but it's not really deserved, so it kind of makes you wonder sometimes. But supposedly Dave Meltzer is reporting that they're using that crowd noise to splice into other things here. And that's all I have noted.
I'm just going to go on the record here as saying that I'm like 99% sure that I have been calling this from the very fucking beginning. Ever since January of 1993, I have been saying that I'm pretty sure there's crowd noise being added to this. Early on, it was right after Lex Luger's babyface turn. There was all this crowd noise going on, but they were showing the crowd as he was walking to the ring, and it didn't look like anybody was doing anything. People were just standing there. And I'm pretty sure like every single episode of Wrestling Raw so far, I've mentioned something about their superimposing crowd noise here, whether it's for heels or faces. It's
the advantage to a taped show too.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, if you fast forward to 1995 when Nitro went live, WWF probably thought, oh shit, I guess we're going to have to go live now too. Back to doing it live. So we can't pump that noise anymore.
Yeah. All right. So that's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. And if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit by searching up the handle Rasslin' Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. Also, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrestling Raw popping up in your podcast feed. Let us know what you think. Hit us with a 5-star review or 4 3/4 if you're Dave Meltzer, wherever you download your podcasts. Next week on Wrestling Raw, we're going to get into the Raw that had aired on October 24th, 1994, with matches featuring the Smoking Guns and Ben Jordan, among others. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrestling Raw.